Good afternoon, radio fans. Big Al here on this Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025, and welcome to another look at radio ratings from major markets from across the country. And today, our focus will be on Salt Lake City, Austin, and the Inland Empire. So these are the July 2025 ratings for Salt Lake City, Ogden, and Provo, Utah, Austin, Texas, and the Inland Empire in Southern California, including Riverside and San Bernardino. What up, Marble Sky? What's going on? So with that, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell to get notified every time I go live. And once again, starting with the August ratings, which will be released late next week, we will be looking at 4 markets per video instead of 3. That way I get more information out to you. Okay, with that being said, let's take a look at the Salt Lake City Ogden-Provo market, which is number 26 in the country. And taking the top spot in Salt Lake City is KSOP Incorporated's country station Z104 KSOP FM, which slipped a little bit from 6.9, their yearly high, down to 6.8, with a cumulative audience of 185,400. That's enough to overtake Bonneville's adult contemporary station FM 100.3 KSFI, which dropped from a 7.3 to a 6.7, and a cumulative audience of 419,800. Capital Broadcasting's Hot AC station, now 97.9 KBZN, comes in third place, moving up from 6.0 to 6.2 with a cumulative audience of 352,700. In fourth place, you have Bonneville Classic Rock Station 103.5 The Arrow KRSP, taking a big drop from 7.4 to 5.8. Now, this station actually led the Salt Lake City market in June, but dropped all the way down, technically into a fourth place tie. They have a cumulative audience of 299,000. The station that they're tied with is their sister news talk station, KSL News Radio 102.7 and 1160, which is KSL AM and FM. Forcing the fourth place tie, they move up from 5.2 to 5.8. Cumulative audience of 181,500. Coming in at number 6 is iHeartRadio's classic hits station, 94.1 KODJ, steady at a 5.6 for a third straight month. Cumulative audience of 313,700. In 7th place is Cumulus Country Station 93.3 The Bull KUBL, dropping from a 5.4 to a 5.1, with a cumulative audience of 261,200. In 8th place is iHeartRadio Talk Station Talk Radio 105.9 KNRS, which is also heard on KNRS AM 570. They're down from a 4.9 to a 4.4 with a cumulative audience of 99,100. Sitting 9th place is Cumulus Rock Station KBER 101, down from 5.4 to 4.2 with a cumulative audience of 186,500. Rounding out the top 10 is Brigham Young University Classical Music Station Classical 89 KBYU FM, up from 3.4 to 4.1 with a cumulative audience of 124,100. In 11th place, you have Broadway Media's Top 40 station Mix 105.1 KUDD, dropping a point from 4.9 to 3.9, cumulative audience of 210,500. Coming in 12th place is the local K-Love station in Salt Lake City, and that's EMF's 107.5 KKLV, making a big jump from 2.0 to 3.5. Cumulative audience of 98,400. This ties them for 12th with Broadway Media's alternative rock station X96 KXRK, up from 3.2 to 3.5, cumulative audience of 192,600. Coming in 14th is Cumulus adult contemporary station B98.7 KBEE FM, up from 2.7 to 3.2 with a cumulative audience of 326,100. 15th place is iHeartMedia's Hot AC My 99.5 KJMY, up from 2.9 to 3.0 with a cumulative audience of 326,500. They are tied with Broadway Media's adult hits station 100.7 and 105.5 Bob FM, heard on KYMV. They're up from 2.5 to 3.0 with a cumulative audience of 215,800. So these two stations are tied for 15th place. Coming in 17th is Cumulus Top 40 station Power 94.9 and 101.9, heard on KENZ. They're up from 2.0 to 2.4 with a cumulative audience of 240,400. What up, Joey? How you doing, bruh? Next is Broadway Media Country Station 101.5 Hank FM KNAH, down from 2.7 to 2.3 with a cumulative audience of 150,200. That's followed by the University of Utah's KUER 90.1, also known as NPR Utah. They're up from 2.0 to 2.2 with a cumulative audience of 73,200. They are tied with iHeartRadio's Top 40 station 97.1 KZHT, which is up from 2.1 to 2.2, and a cumulative audience of 233,800. Its sister classic rock station, Rock 106.7 KAAZ, is right behind them, up from 1.5 to 1.8, cumulative audience of 98,600. That's followed by Capital Broadcasting's classic alternative rock station 103.1 The Wave, KLO FM, steady at a 1.2, cumulative audience of 75,700. Next is Broadway Media Sports Station KALL ESPN 700, down from 1.1 to 0.8. with a cumulative audience of 29,300. This is the flagship station for University of Utah sports, primarily football and men's basketball. ESPN 700 is tied with variety station 90.9 KRCL from Listeners Community Radio of Utah. They're up from 0.5 to 0.8 with a cumulative audience of 31,200. Continuing their slide is Broadway Media's classic hip-hop station 92.5 The Beat, KUUU-FM, down from 0.9 to 0.8 with a cumulative audience of 101,000. They are also tied with Larry H. Miller Communications Sports Station, the KSL Sports Zone, heard on KZNS 97.5 FM and 1280 AM. This is the Utah Jazz flagship station. They're up from 0.5 to 0.8 with a cumulative audience of 35,300. Brigham Young University's talk station, BYU Radio, heard on KUMT 107.9, is steady at a 0.5. What up, Mason? Cumulative audience of 24,000. Cumulus News Talker 860 AM KKAT is next at a 0.4, rising up from 0.2 with a cumulative audience of only 12,800. Mid-Utah Radio's country station 93.7 The Wolf KKUT is down from 0.5 to 0.4 with a cumulative audience of 37,400. The AM portion of the KSL Sports Zone, which is KZNS 1280 from Larry H. Miller Communications is up from 0.2 to 0.4 with a cumulative audience of 15,400. Then you have Mid-Utah Radio's Soft AC station, Classy FM KMGR, steady at a 0.2. Cumulative audience of 24,600. Up next, Broadway Media Sports Station, KOVO ESPN 960, which according to Radio Insight did not register, but I bet they're either at 0.1 or 0.2. They have a cumulative audience of 14,300. The online stream of BYU Radio, which again is heard on KUMT 107.9 and relayed on KBYU FM HD2, registers at a 0.1 with a cumulative audience of 7,100. Bonneville's classic rocker, The Arrow Deep Tracks, heard on KRSP HD2, is down from 0.2 to 0.1 with a cumulative audience of 7,500. Next is University of Utah's classical station, KUER HD3, which runs Classical 24. They're at a 0.1. Cumulative audience of 6,500. Broadway Media's X96 Classic on KXRK HD2 is steady at a 0.1 with a cumulative audience of 5,100. Not registering are Bonneville's contemporary Christian station Sunday Sounds, heard on KSFI HD2 with a cumulative audience of 2,700. And University of Utah's Spanish variety station, Avanza 88.3 KUUB. So that's the Salt Lake City, Ogden, and Provo market. Moving on to market number 27, which is Austin, Texas. All right, and taking the top spot in the state capital of Texas is Waterloo Media's adult hit station 103.5 Bob FM KBPA, jumping a full 2 points from 7.7 to 9.7 to retake the Austin lead. They have a cumulative audience of 482,700. In second place is University of Texas NPR news station KUT 90.5. Up from 8.9 to 9.6, cumulative audience of 221,700. Sitting in third place is Odyssey's adult contemporary station, Magic 95.5 KKMJ, down from 5.9 to 5.7 with a cumulative audience of 355,500. Taking the number 4 spot is iHeart Country Station, Case 100.7 KASE, up from 4.5 to 4.8 with a cumulative audience of 207,000. Fifth place is Waterloo Media's regional Mexican station, La Zeta 107.1 KLZT. They dropped from a 4.8 to a 4.4. Cumulative audience of 140,000. Coming in sixth place is iHeart's sister country station, 98.1 KVET, KVET-FM, down from a 4.5 to a 4.2. Cumulative audience of 241,300. And this is one of the 2 stations in Austin where you could hear Texas Longhorns football. Seventh place is iHeart's sister top 40 station, 96.7 KISS FM KHFI, up from 3.6 to 4.1. Cumulative audience of 268,500. In eighth place is Waterloo Media's news and talk station, News Radio KLBJ 590. Which is also heard on an Austin translator at 99.7. They're down from 4.1 to 3.9 with a cumulative audience of 79,600. This ties them with adult album alternative station KUTX 98.9 from the University of Texas, which moved up big from 2.8 to 3.9. Cumulative audience of 110,000. Rounding out the top 10 is Odyssey's Hot AC station Mix 94.7 KAMX, down from 4.6 to 3.8. Cumulative audience of 241,800. In 11th place is Waterloo Media Classic Rock Station 93.7 KLBJ FM, The Rock of Austin. They're down from 4.4 to 3.7 with a cumulative audience of 207,400. Its sister alternative rock station 101X Alternative Austin, which is KROX FM, is also down from 3.1 to 3.0. Cumulative audience of 198,900. EMF's 105.9 KFMK, which broadcasts the K-Love radio network with a Christian contemporary format, is also dropping down from 3.1 to 2.8 and a cumulative audience of 107,100. Yes, everyone, drop a like on the video, subscribe for more killer content. I have a lot of football coming up. I'll be making my NFL picks tomorrow, so make sure you join me for that. Thanks, Mason. Next is Televisa Univision's regional Mexican station Cubana 104.3 KLQB, down from 3.2 to 2.6 with a cumulative audience of 91,900. Next up is iHeartRadio's hip-hop station 102.3 The Beat, KPEZ FM, up from 2.3 to 2.4 with a cumulative audience of 143,500. That's followed by Township Media's 96.3 Jack FM, which is heard on KJFK 1490, which is the oldest radio station in Austin, and on a translator in Austin at 96.3. They're up from 2.0 to 2.1 with a cumulative audience of 135,200. Its sister adult album alternative station, Sun Radio 100.1, which is heard technically on daytime signal KTSN 1060, with an FM translator at 100.1 in Austin. They're also up at 2.1 from 1.8 with a cumulative audience of 88,100. Odyssey's country station, 95.9 Texas Country, heard on KKMJ HD3, and on an Austin translator at 95.9, jumps from 1.4 to 1.9, cumulative audience of 32,400. Next is Capital Broadcasting Association's classical station KMFA Classical 89.5, dropping from a 2.2 to a 1.8 with a cumulative audience of 88,900. Just below them is Waterloo Media's classic hip-hop station Vibe 93.3 KGSR, down from 2.2 to 1.7, cumulative audience of 120,200. Next is Norsan Media's regional Mexican station La Raza 104.9 and 95.1, heard on KTXX FM. They're up from 1.4 to 1.6, cumulative audience of 52,400. That's followed by Televisa Univision's Spanish AC station Amor 107.7 KLJA, down from 1.6 to 1.5 with a cumulative audience of 58,000. Alright, we have another another Spanish/English station, and that's Waterloo Media's bilingual AC Latino 97.1, heard on KLZT HD2, and an Austin translator on 97.1. They stay at a 1.0 for the fourth straight month with a cumulative audience of 65,200. Then from iHeartRadio, you have 80s hits station 103.1, Austin's 80s station, heard on KHFI HD2 and another Austin translator at 103.1. They're down from 1.0 to 0.7 with a cumulative audience of 36,400. That's followed by Norsan Media's Spanish AC station, Romantica 105.3, heard on KTXX HD4. They're up from 0.6 to 0.7 with a cumulative audience of 38,000. And then you have the Austin Music Experience, a AAA format heard on KUTX HD2. This is their online stream. They're up from 0.5 to 0.7 with a cumulative audience of 44,400. Next is Waterloo Media Sports Station ESPN 102.7, heard on KBPA HD2 and a translator in Austin at 102.7 FM. They're down from 0.7 to 0.6 with a cumulative audience of 24,200. Alright, EMF's Air 1 heard in the Austin area on KVLR. I think it's 92.5. They're steady at a 0.6 with a cumulative audience of 40,300. Next is the alternative format of iHeartRadio's Alt 97.5 heard on KASE HD2 and on a translator in Austin at 97.5. They dropped from 0.8 to 0.5 with a cumulative audience of 51,000. Norsan's regional Mexican station Leyendas, heard on KTXX HD3, is steady at a 0.5 with a cumulative audience of 21,100. The online stream of KMFA Classical 89.5 comes in at a 0.2 with a cumulative audience of 7,200. Next is Norsan's Mexicasima 99.3 KOKE FM, which plays regional Mexican music. Of course, this was the old Coke FM with a classic country format. They're steady at 0.2 with a cumulative audience of 12,500. That's followed by the online stream of Mix 94.7 down to a 0.1 with a cumulative audience of 5,300. Odyssey Talk Station, Talk 1370 KJCE, also heard on KKMJ-HD2, is steady at a 0.1. Cumulative audience of 4,500. And this is the Austin affiliate for Texas A&M Aggie Sports. iHeartMedia's Pride Radio, heard on KPEZ HD2, is registering again at a 0.1 with a cumulative audience of 8,700. Norsan Sports Station The Horn, KTAE AM 1260 out of Elgin, Texas, is registering as well at a 0.1 with a cumulative audience of 10,900. The BBC World Service, heard on KUTHD2 from the University of Texas, is steady at a 0.1 and a cumulative audience of 10,200. Not registering is Waterloo Media's Adult Album Alternative Station 93.3 KGSR HD2. Now this was the former Austin City Limits Radio. They did not register, but they have a cumulative audience of 3,900. Also not registering is iHeartRadio's Retro, which is a classic hits station heard on KHFI HD3 and on the iHeartRadio app. They have a cumulative audience of 2,300. Their AM sports station, AM 1300 The Zone, KVET, also didn't register. They have a cumulative audience of 4,100, and you can also hear Texas Longhorns football on this station as well. And finally, America Telecommunications Regional Mexican Station, La Raza 104.9 and 95.1. This is the AM station from KZNX 1530 with a translator in suburban Westlake Hills on 95.1. They also didn't register, and they had a cumulative audience of 0. All right, that's it for the Austin, Texas market. Moving on to market number 28. This is the Inland Empire of Riverside and San Bernardino, California. And you're going to have a bunch of LA stations on this list too, so keep that in mind. All right. Leading the way in the Inland Empire is Intravision's Spanish adult hit station, KLYY FM, Jose 97.5 and 107.1, which is heard on 3 different stations on 107.1 across Southern California. They jumped up massively from 9.8 to 11.4 and a cumulative audience of 273,500. In second place, you have Anaheim Broadcasting's classic hit station, Cola 99.9 KOLA. They dropped from a 6.0 to a 5.6, putting them in a very distant second place. Cumulative audience of 420,100. Los Angeles-based Televisa Univision Spanish Contemporary Station, 107.5 Amor KLVE, comes in third in the Inland Empire, down from a 5.2 to a 3.9 with a cumulative audience of 174,400. iHeartRadio's Rhythmic CHR, you can pretty much call it hip-hop at this point, 99.1 KGGI is fourth, up from 2.6 to 3.0 with a cumulative audience of 264,700. Odyssey Country Station, 95.1 K-Frog, KFRG, is steady at a 2.9 with a cumulative audience of 210,700. This station is also heard in Los Angeles on KCBS FM HD2. Next is Mediaco's regional Mexican station, Cubana 96.1 KRQB, which is also simulcast on 94.3 and 105.5 in the Los Angeles area. They're down from a 3.2 to a 2.8 with a cumulative audience of 178,700. This puts them in 6th place. Anaheim Broadcasting Rock Station, 96.7 KCal Rocks, which is KCAL FM. They're down from 2.7 to 2.6. Cumulative audience of 131,700. Murolo Group's rock station from Los Angeles, the legendary 95.5 KLOS, is down in the Inland Empire from 3.0 to 2.4 with a cumulative audience of 173,200. Its sister Spanish Hot AC station, Cali 93.3 KLLI, also based in LA, is up from 1.8 to 2.2 with a cumulative audience of 171,500. Next is Point Broadcasting's Rhythmic Oldies station, Old School 104.7 KQIE, dropping from a 2.1 to a 1.9 with a cumulative audience of 174,400. Next up is another Los Angeles station, Televisa Univision's Spanish adult hit station, Recuerdo 103.9 and 98.3, Heard in the Los Angeles area on KRCD 103.9 and in West Covina on KRCV 98.3. They are up from 1.8 to 1.9 with a cumulative audience of 93,600. Next is Good News Radio's KSGN 89.7 with a contemporary Christian format. They dropped from 1.9 to 1.7 with a cumulative audience of 93,500. The next two stations are both from LA and register in the Inland Empire. First is Televisa Univision's regional Mexican station La Nueva 101.9 KSCA, down from 2.1 to 1.6 with a cumulative audience of 119,100. The second is Murillo Group's Murillo Group's hip hop station, another legend in Los Angeles, and that's Power 106 KPWR. They're up from 1.1 to 1.2 with a cumulative audience of 107,700. Next is All Pro Broadcasting's adult contemporary station, 101.3 and 103.9 KDFM, which is KATY-FM. They fell from a 1.5 to a 1.1 with a cumulative audience of 133,000. All right. Next up is EMF's K-Love station in the Inland Empire, KLRD 91.1, which is down from 1.0 to 0.8, with a cumulative audience of 61,700. Calvary Chapel's religious station, 107.9 K-Wave, which is KWVE-FM, heard in both Los Angeles and San Diego on 107.9, and in the LA area on AM 1110. They registered at a 0.8 with a cumulative audience of 35,600. Next is iHeartRadio Sports Station, Fox Sports Radio 1350 KPWK, up from 0.2 to 0.5 with a cumulative audience of 7,100. Next up is the online stream of Odyssey's 95.1 KFrog, which is up to 0.4. Cumulative audience of 11,700. iHeartRadio Rock Station Q1033 KTMQ, which is licensed in Temecula, is down from 0.5 to 0.4. Cumulative audience of 29,400. The local NPR news station in the Inland Empire is NPR 91.9 KVCR FM from San Bernardino Community College. They dropped from a 0.6 to a 0.4 with a cumulative audience of 29,300. And then we got another LA station registering in the Inland Empire, and that's Murillo Group's classic hip hop station, and another SoCal radio legend, 93.5 K-Day. This is heard on KDEY in Ontario, which covers the Inland Empire, and in Los Angeles on KDAY-FM 93.5. They're up from 0.1 to 0.3 with a cumulative audience of 40,500. iHeartRadio's alternative station, Radio 94.5 KMYT, is down from 0.4 to 0.3 with a cumulative audience of 19,500. And then the Inland Empire's Black Information Network, BIN 1440, which is KFOO, they're steady at a 0.2 with a cumulative audience of only 3,500. Pasadena-based NPR News and Talk Station 89.3 KPCC, owned by Pasadena City College, registers in the Inland Empire as well, up from 0.1 to 0.2 with a cumulative audience of 18,000. And then the local Air 1 station in the IE is 90.1 KKLP, which did not register, but had a cumulative audience of 7,200. And then KFRG's simulcast partner, KXFG, out of Menifee, California, also didn't register. That, of course, is the country format of 95.1 KFrog. They have a cumulative audience of 6,100. All right, that'll do it for this edition of Radio Ratings from across the country, as we delved into the July numbers for Salt Lake City, Austin, and Riverside-San Bernardino. In our next installment, we'll look at 3 new markets: Orlando, Florida, Sacramento, California, and Las Vegas, Nevada. So join me for that. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and happy listening. Peace out.